It's a bit of a rainy week here in the city. We are actually in Scotiabank Arena right now. I'm Savanna Hamilton alongside Paul Jones. Sherman Hamilton will be joining us a little bit later. You are watching Raptors Today. Now the Raptors, they lost last night to the Bulls 108-111 in what was such an entertaining game, Jonesy.
Yes.
What was your reactions?
Well, it was entertaining, Sav, and it's, again, maybe the novelty hasn't worn off after being away for a year and a half, but to have a sellout building, the Raptors down 20, coming back, fighting back, getting into it, and come down to the last possession with a potential 3 to tie the game, I think it was terrific. And you could see the fans appreciating that and giving the team energy. Raptors have to do a better job early on, though. They seem to be a team right now that gets down and has to play from behind in all but one game. And then when I think about, the way last night's game went, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about, but decision making is going to be a key for them going forward this year.
And talk about it, we will,
yeah.
As a matter of fact, because, actually last night, if anything, I think it gave the fans a reason to remember just why we root for this team, which is why we get behind them, because that last quarter, in the fourth quarter, especially the last 3 minutes, Fred VanVleet put the team on his back. And it's just so good to see that gritty basketball played once again here in Scotiabank Arena. But let's talk about the last 4 games in the season so far of where we are at.
On a positive sense, Savanna, Nick Nurse mentioned this. I'll never forget running into him in Vegas and him talking about we're going to be young, we're going to be good, and we're going to guard you. We're going to play hard. And when I think about it, in the first 4 games, there's been a resiliency emerging from this team. You think about being down in opening night to Washington and coming back and holding them for a while and getting back in the game. They go on the road, they win at Boston. The back-to-back, really, the second night of the back-to-back, they had difficulties in the second half. That's when their legs hit them. But then last night, they go down 20 to a team with veterans, DeMar DeRozan, young veterans, Lonzo Ball, people like that, the Raptors come back, and they come back from down 20, and they have a shot to tie it at the end. So I like the emerging resiliency coming from this team, the fact that they continue to play hard. They just feel like they're never out of it, and they turn up the energy. And I'm telling you, if they can clean a few things up, the record could be very differently.
Absolutely. And a player on this team that has embodied resiliency so far that really stands out to me is Scottie Barnes, the rookie on the Raptors. Honestly, he's playing both defensively and offensively very high-level basketball for his level, the fact that he's a rookie.
Yes.
And when I think about the matchups that he has had to guard, especially on the back-to-back, he hasn't let up. If anything, he has that extra spark or that extra grit and tenacity to really lock up his man and show that extra coverage. Something that I think could be cleaned up maybe is a bit of the help side defense. However, on the offensive end, he's also showing a range of skills. He dropped 25 points the other day as well. So, he's a great, he has so much upside. He's proving himself to be such a valuable member of this team, and you can only see more. But let's get realistic here. Let's talk about some things that the Raptors need to clean up as a whole so far this season.
Yeah, they do. The thing that comes to mind, Savannah, especially after last night's game against Chicago, was the turnovers. Some careless plays, high-risk plays. You're better off at times taking the shot. And then, people have talked about the fact that, their half-court offense isn't what it should be. Some of that is early in the year. We always talk about this, that they usually play 7 or 8 preseason games. They had 4 this year. So it's going to take you a few games in the season, particularly with a young squad, to adjust. And then, look, in the second half of last night's game when they got down, some of their half-court offense did improve. Why? They just put a little bit more elbow grease into it. They played harder. The cuts were harder. The dribble handoffs were crisper.
Yes.
Now the defense is trailing by a half a body length or, a quarter of a step. That gives you an opening to get into the lane to make a pass. So it's continuing to play hard. I think that's part of it too. And listen, I think there's great potential for this team, but they have to recognize it. They can't let games get away from them early in the season.
Absolutely. Turnovers is one thing, but another thing on the offensive end, especially in this new league that we've entered since the Steph Curry era, is the three-point shooting. Okay, this is something that we have to emphasize a little bit here, because throughout, last night, actually the field goal percentage evened out throughout the game. The first half wasn't great, but the second half, both teams actually shot at 41% from the field. But, if you look at the past stretch of games, the Raptors haven't had their legs on the three-point shot. So, it's one thing that, and we've seen them take it, and I'm not mad at them taking the shots.
Got to take them, yeah.
You have to take them, so don't get discouraged from taking them. It's just a matter of the quality of looks and just taking an extra half second if you need to get prepared to shoot that shot with great vision. You'll be hearing from Nick Nurse and the players.
Just continue to have fight, staying together, believing in one another still, and just trying to put up an effort and trying to get a win. We waited a little long to try to turn it up, but, it shows the signs is there. It shows what we can do. It shows what we can do when we play together and believe in one another. So day by day, continue with that. I wouldn't go that far. It's really just in the flow in the game. Everybody's trying to make a play, make something happen. I doubt anybody purposely goes out there and, tries to turn the ball over. But, they're just trying to make a play. Everybody's trying to do something to help this team in any way, shape, or form they can.
It felt okay, Doug. To me, I thought it was okay. There was only one little stretch where I thought we played extremely slow and a little bit unsure of ourselves there. I think it was, I can't remember, I think it was the second quarter part where we just weren't quite getting up the floor. We had a pretty big lineup in there, and we just looked a little bit unsure of what we were doing out there. But other than that, it was okay. I thought the offense was pretty good tonight, right? We got to the rim a lot. We had a lot of open shots, especially in the first half. I thought we moved the ball pretty good. We kept going to next actions and finding some stuff for the most part. And it's really a physical battle at the basket right now, right? It's extremely physical, which get used to. That we started making some really good tough drives once we kind of adjusted to it. But it was same both ways. It's physical as heck out there, and I don't know. I felt like first of all, I thought we played really well to be down 10 at the half. I really did. We were really executing and firing it around and doing some things. It wasn't quite bouncing our way there the first half, but it was a good fight back. Played hard. Well, I think everything's valuable for us, Josh. And again, I know we're scrambling a little bit there. We're picking up, and we got some stuff. I think. One really tough possession, maybe 50-some seconds to go. We ran a play and turned the corner and turned it over on that one. They executed it really well, and again, it was a hard drive, kind of knocked off balance and didn't have much choice but to try to find somebody getting out. But I thought they did pretty good down the stretch, really. It's the turnovers are harder to probably create against a team like this, Michael. There's not any passing going on, right? It's the guy with the ball shooting it or dumping it to the next guy who's shooting it for, a cutter or a kick out three. So there's not a whole lot of things to deflect and things like that. There's not. That's I said that, same a bunch of people mentioned that at the half. I said, well, it's the only way we're going to get deflections is by taking it from the guy, that has the ball, because there's no like pass here, reverse it back, reverse it there. They got, three great ball handling guards, and they put it in their hands and they say, shoot it. Right, until you have to pass it, and then when they do, there's usually the next guy's ready to hit it or take it. He's got to, right? Well, I gotta go look at it. I think a little bit, Aaron. I know what you're saying. I think that again, like I thought like most of the first half, I kept saying, man, we're playing really well. Like we're executing, guys are fine, and we're cutting and we're passing. I know we missed like 5 threes totally uncontested with nobody on us, and we missed about 6 layups, in transition. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, we're playing really well, and all of a sudden we're down 6 and we're down 4. Then we claw it back, and I got to the halftime locker room. I was like, geez, we're playing good to be down 10. Right, I really thought that. Didn't think we came out with much energy to start the second and dug ourselves a little bit deeper a hole, right? But again, geez, they got some prolific shot makers, and they were making a few. And that, I mean, you have 2 turnovers, and they come down and hit a sidestep, bang three at, at 12 turns to 18 pretty quick. It's not maybe it's just kind of part of the game, I think.
The first game, we just didn't have the energy. I thought probably little nerves, big ceremony. Other than that, I've liked our fight, our spirit. Boston didn't fight back as much, as probably they would have on a normal night. They had a double overtime, whatever it was. And then the last 2, I just think whether it's a shot selection or the open ones we get not going in, there's been a couple like 10-0 runs, 12-0 runs that are hard to come back from, no matter what point of the game it is. So Dallas went on one. I think they're both been in the third quarter. And it's just, you fighting uphill after that. So I think we can address some of that. And that's just like a mental side of the game on both ends of the floor. But we were playing a lot of good basketball for a lot of those games. And, the test is to get that to be a full 48-minute game. And that takes a lot of moving pieces and a lot of right decisions. You never know what you're going to get. Yeah, I think, yeah. And, we've all been there. Like, I feel like that at times. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what you're going to get. I'm not perfect. I make a ton of mistakes. So I think the only thing is just trying to get the younger guys who haven't played as much to understand the value of each possession and to understand that Nick is a very generous coach when it comes to freedom, and he doesn't define roles. He lets everybody kind of be who they want to be, but there's still a responsibility to the teammates and to the locker room. And there's been a few moments where you have to address that. And yeah, you know what I mean? It is what it is, and it'll continue to grow. But I tell you one thing, everybody on this team wants to win. And nobody's crazy enough to keep doing something over and over when it's not working. So just fine-tuning it a little bit. And there's guys in positions with more opportunity than they could ever dream of. So just have to find a balance.
Okay, we're now going to head over to Sherman Hamilton.
Thanks, Sav. A lot of moving parts this season so far for the Raptors. And it's early, we understand that. But there's been some pretty interesting things that we've noticed over the first few games of the season. Number one is the Raptors have been a very active team with their hands in terms of creating steals and deflections. We know Fred VanVleet is great at anticipating, getting his hands on basketballs, being able to deflect passes. But we're seeing some other guys get involved as well. And now we're seeing these deflections and these steals are creating offensive opportunities, which is a great thing. And that's one form of defense, playing passing lanes, deflecting passes, and creating opportunities. You look at Gary Trent Jr. is doing a great job, averaging over 2 steals a game. Fred is right there around 2 steals a game. OG Anunoby is right under 2 steals a game. These guys are doing a great job from a defensive perspective in the steals department, making the offense of the other team struggle to get into flow. When you can just get a piece of that pass, just deflect the ball and change the dynamic of the offense and make sure they might have to play maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 feet further away from the basket, take some time off the shot clock by deflecting a pass, that changes rhythm and flow, and that helps build your defense. And what the Raptors are doing right now are being extremely active in the passing lanes, pressuring the pass. When guys are squaring up, they're not giving them great sight lines. They're making sure they're active, making sure they have that challenge hand, making sure that offensive players have to be aware that they're not going to just make easy passes. And that forces offenses to have to think a little bit more, and it helps bolster your defense. Steals is not the only way that you get it done on the defensive end, but it can be very impactful when you do it the right way by getting in the passing lanes and creating deflections. Your defense behind you becomes that much better when the pressure on the ball is effective and consistent.
Turnover. OG attacking left. Good. 2-point game. Raptors have arrived in the fourth through persistent defensive pressure.
All right, let's continue on this defensive thread. We talked about deflections and steals. The other defensive side of the basketball is the activity in terms of staying in front of people, challenging shots, using this length that we've talked about all preseason and the early parts of this season that the Raptors have to be effective in contesting and challenging shots. The Raptors have been very good, even though they haven't won as many games as they'd like to. They've been very consistently good on the defensive end. And you see it in their numbers, 7th in defensive rating, 7th in opponent three-point percentage. They're doing a great job contesting, closing out, being physically involved in terms of using their length to deter driving lanes and passing lanes. And then they're recovering. The Raptors are switching a lot. They have that length to get out there, and their bigger guys can move their feet. The smaller guys can guard bigger guys. So they are always in a position where they can challenge and stay in front of the basketball. And that's what we're seeing. The multiple efforts on the defensive end, I think, have been excellent for the Raptors. And that's been a consistent energy point for this team. And understanding the offense isn't clicking every night, but their defense has been very consistent. And this is the biggest thing about the defensive end of the possession. The Raptors are number 1 in rebounding. They're completing defensive possessions by getting on the glass and securing the basketball. Your defense can be great, but if you can't secure the rebound, it's all for nothing. The Raptors right now, from a defensive perspective, are doing some very good things.
Ball in the corner. And Nick Nurse telling Chris to get back. And he does! Well, Nick Nurse knows. It's like Baldwin knows best, right?
One area the Raptors have been a bit inconsistent and have had some struggles in the early part of the season is the consistency coming off the bench, the production with the next guy off the bench. And they've struggled to find those guys who can come into the game and be consistent and change the complexion of the game. Now, it's early in the season, and this is something that can be addressed moving forward, but there are some expectations of that bench. This is a deep team. They have interchangeable players. Guys coming off the bench have the ability and the talent to get the job done and change the complexion of the game. So there's got to be an impetus and a desire and an urgency to be that group. And I expect that to happen as the season rolls on. But you look at a guy like Goran Dragic, who has all this experience in the league, you know he's going to come around. You know he's going to find his legs in a new situation. He's going to figure things out. And I feel like he's going to be a staple in terms of a guy who comes off the bench and can provide a lot of veteran presence, scoring ability, and playmaking ability. I look at a guy like Khem Birch, who provides a lot of energy, who's tough, who's physical, and who has had some very good performances so far. He's going to be another staple. One guy I'd like to see play at a more consistent level, and he has to get some minutes and earn some minutes and kind of change the complexion and not be as, I think, urgent to score the basketball to prove his worth at times, is Chris Boucher. We know he can play. We know how good he is. He's playing hard, but he hasn't had the fruits of that labor. And I think at some point those shots are going to drop. We're going to see the guy we saw over the past 2 seasons just have impact coming off the bench. But he's a guy I expect to really have impact throughout the course of the season. I like this bench. I think this bench has the ability to be tough, to be defensive-minded, to score the basketball, especially when you sprinkle in some of the starters. So the consistency coming off the bench, I feel, is going to happen. Right now, though, the Raptors struggling a bit, but it's something they're going to have to figure out as the season rolls on.
Hey, we got to look ahead now at the Indiana Pacers, our next matchup. Jonesy, you take the bigs, I take the guards. Who do you got?
Well, I look at Miles Turner. He's a guy that the Raptors have seen since, back in the day in the playoff series. Long, athletic, really good shot blocker. Got to be careful when you're taking the ball inside and going to the goal. And then on the offensive end, he will finish on the inside, but he can also step outside and shoot the three. So, look, the Pacers are going through a bit of an adjustment with a new coach themselves, a championship coach, but they do have some pieces. Turner is one of them, and the other guy is Domantas Sabonis. Yes. Sabonis, another guy like that, big, strong, can play on the outside, finish on the inside, a really good passer, got those genes from his dad, and he's really, really good in screen roll situations. So those two guys from my eyes that the Raptors really have to kind of be aware of are Miles Turner and Sabonis.
Not to mention Sabonis' IQ level, especially for playing like a center position on the team. But, somebody on the guard, and, we got to talk about O'Shea Brissett as well as Malcolm Brogdon. I'll go Brogdon first because he's averaging 24 points a game this season so far. I know it's still the beginning of the season, so that could very much change. And his 3-point shooting percentage is not exactly the greatest. So if anything, I would force him to take some more threes in hoping that maybe he has a cold night against us. But, it's somebody somebody that you do have to contain, keep an eye on. He knows how to distribute the ball. He's averaging almost like 7 assists a game as well. But let's talk a little bit about O'Shea Brissett, because we know him very well here at the Raptors. You know, he was on the Raptors team and also with the 905 at one point, having covered him a little bit on the 905. You know, he is a facilitator. His game has really translated very well to the next level.
Yes.
You know, and to be honest, like, selfishly, I'm so happy for him.
Yeah,
I am happy for him.
How can you not be? How can you not be? I mean, he signed a big contract. It's part of that Raptors developmental system,
Absolutely.
Sav, one that got away.
The one that got away. But you know what? But now that he's gotten away, we have to make sure we contain him and we really look out for his presence on the floor when we go play them next. But let's talk a little bit about Fred VanVleet. What does he need to do?
Well, I think Fred's adjusting. You know, he's obviously the leader of this team. He's looking for his own offense. He's trying to learn his teammates, get other people involved. I mean, last night against Chicago, he goes for 17, a career-high 17 assists. But then what Fred will point to is 8 turnovers. You know, I got to get rid of the 8 turnovers. I think he's a guy that's just kind of waiting to break out once everything gets put into place. And the issue right now is he's one of the guys helping to put things in place. But I think you're going to see the best of Fred coming up.
Absolutely. And another point guard we got to talk about is, of course, Delano Banton. What a spark he was again in the third quarter. Now, you know, we're just talking off camera about the fact that his stat line wasn't, you know, like it wasn't.
It's not going to wow you.
It's not going to wow you.
Yeah.
It's not going to wow you. However, his plus minus was +6 in the minutes that he did contribute to the floor, which, you know, he brings that energy, he brings that spark, and sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes it's like the glue to make all the parts come together a little bit better. And he did, I think, kick off the momentum change in that end of third, beginning of fourth, that really sparked that run that the Raptors had towards the end of the game. You know, and something that we do need to be aware of is the slow start, Jonesy.
2-8 last year, Savanna, and 1-3 right now. 3 losses at home. You want to take care of home court. And these games that are lost now are the games that you're looking for in late March, you know, early April, when you get into playoff time and playoff contention. Look, if you're the Raptors, it's possession by possession. They went through a stretch where they won 6 straight quarters after losing that first game to Washington. They need to get back to that, just kind of grind it out, keep playing their style, developing their identity, and they need to put some wins on the board. Let's face it, if they leave 3-3, if they can get the next couple, beating Indiana and Orlando, you got 11 of your next 14 on the road. And the road's a time where you come together too. There's some bonding going on, some time together. So hopefully they can get a couple at home before they head out.
Absolutely. And, you know, something that comes to mind also with this start, in opposed to last year's start, is the way that they're losing almost, is the fact that, like, they're taking a lot of experiences, they're learning, they're meshing. This is a new team with so many new faces, and so it's going to take a little bit to also come together. But you could watch tomorrow night's game against the Pacers at 7:30, catch it on TSN and listen to it on Sportsnet 590. Jonesy, any final thoughts here?
Need to get a win if you're the Raptors. Protect home court. Get back towards the 500 mark. As we said, you don't want to slip too far.
Absolutely. From Jake, Paul Jones, Sherman Hamilton, I'm Savanna Hamilton. Thank you again for watching Raptors Today.